You're right, Eric.
Oh, now I've hit press record, you cunt.
You can just delete that bit, you're fine.
I can't delete it for the fucking video recording, can I? Jesus. Hello!
Just any fart in the thinking. There you go, that's how it explained.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Hello and
well.
Would you let me do the fucking intro?
Right, come on in.
I'm so glad you're back.
Serious face.
Hello and welcome to the Pod of the Damned. I'm your host Ian, and thank God he's back. Joining me as always is our co-host Nico. How's it going, buddy?
I'm no bad. I'm fine.
Smelly guts.
Aye.
Did you enjoy your holiday, Nico?
I loved the holiday.
Aye. I think our listeners probably loved your fucking holiday and all. Jesus Christ. Well, yes, welcome back. Nico obviously spent you've been away for the last couple of episodes. You were away in Turkey.
Yeah, I was in Turkey.
So, yeah.
Gobble gobble.
Jesus fucking Christ. Was that what you were doing over there, was it?
You can.
Oh dear. And yeah, I feel like if you got like a point to prove or something in the first 10 minutes of this episode, just be as low fucking brow as possible. The last couple of weeks has been lovely.
Not at all.
We had obviously for the last couple of episodes we had Boomer on to discuss Don't Breathe with me. I had our new sort of backup host Anna on last week to talk about Insidious. And already in the first 2 minutes, you've brought the just bar of this podcast down to about as low as it can fucking go.
Toilet humour is the lowest form of wit.
Exactly, it is the lowest form of wit. It's about the highest form of wit that you fucking got.
It was just bad timing.
Oh, was it?
Just before we came on and the cat run away.
About 3 minutes before we came on. It was about 3 full fucking minutes before we came on.
It wasn't. It was literally just before we came on.
You know how sometimes I read people's reviews at other podcasts and they're like, oh, they take a really long time to get into their episode topic. They're too busy doing intros. Whereas we spend fucking 9 minutes just talking about your arse.
Well, this time it is.
Anyways, you might not have realised, but we are a horror podcast that deep dives into a different topic every single week in our quest to create a leaderboard of the best and worst horror movies of all time. This is episode number 82, and in today's show, we're talking all about M3gan. Before we get into it though, if you would like to support us across our social media platforms, you can do so on Twitter at Damn Podcast. We're on Facebook and Instagram at Pod of the Damned. You can email us at podofthedamned@gmail.com, and you can subscribe to our Patreon, patreon.com/Pod of the Damned. We also have a whole host of other stuff coming up. We've got brand new side series of episodes called Bucket List Horror, where we have a different guest every single episode on to discuss a horror movie that they think that everyone should see before they die. These are miniature episodes again that'll last between 20 and 30 minutes. I've already recorded the first 4 episodes. I've got another 2 of them recorded today, so they'll be coming out over the course of the next few weeks as well. And we'll have a couple of other...
You've been busy.
I have been busy, aye. It's amazing how productive I am when you're nae here, Nico.
No comment.
And yeah, we'll have some other side series coming up as well. Obviously, me and Nico, we were just talking about potentially bringing back a really old side series of episodes for Patreon. And yes, our new sort of member of the podcast, Anna, will be joining us a bit more in the coming weeks as well. So please stay tuned for that. Nico, since it's your first week back, you said you haven't checked. Nico doesn't listen to this podcast when he's not on it, so...
That is a fucking lie.
Would you like me to update you with where Don't Breathe and Insidious, our last couple of episode topics, and how they did on the leaderboard?
I saw it on the leaderboard, but remind me. I've kept in touch by looking at this Facebook, basically.
Ah, right, okay. So, Don't Breathe, I've lost it, is currently sitting in 31st place. It got an overall score of a 7.3 out of 10. You obviously rated that quite highly. You gave it an 8. I gave it a 6.5, and Boomer, who was on that episode, gave it a 5. So you were obviously the one who was higher on it than me and Boomer were. And Insidious, which I suddenly cannot find on the leaderboard, currently sits in 52nd place with an overall score of 5.9. You gave it a 2 out of 10. I gave it a 7, and Anna gave it an 8. So definitely flip side on that one. You hate that movie, and we do not.
Yeah.
So
it's a crock of shit.
Yeah, okay. If you say so. Obviously, today we're talking all about M3gan. Where do you think M3gan is going to come on the leaderboard?
Not very high, I don't think. See, normally I roughly can guess, but I barely knew about this one when it came out.
Well, this is the 78th movie we've covered on the podcast, but just FYI.
Yeah. So I would say probably 60 odd.
About 60th. So in 60th place right now is Deep Blue Sea with a score of 5.5.
I quite like that. Nah, I put it to be there.
Okay. Well, we will find out at the end of the episode exactly where M3gan is going to come on the leaderboard. But shall we get into our actual movie discussion?
Yeah, go for it.
Let's go for it. Today we're talking all about M3gan. This movie was released in 2022, was directed by Gerard Johnston, and stars Alison Williams, Violet McGraw, and Amy Donald. The IMDb plot is as follows, and you're going to actually have to bear with me 2 minutes because I forgot to update the IMDb plot. On my notes, a robotics engineer at a toy company builds a lifelike doll that begins to take on a life of its own. Now, Nico, I'm actually, believe it or not, going to be really interested about your opinions on this movie because we've covered this movie before, really, haven't we?
We've covered a shitter version of this movie.
No, we haven't. We've covered I think this is where we're going to differ because we've covered a significantly better version than this movie.
It should have been better because Mark Hamill was in the other one.
This is just the Child's Play remake, right?
Pretty much. This is, as I said, this is Ghost in a Shell to a fucking T. This is basically Pinocchio gone evil. That's what the fucking story is.
One of the things...
hello.
Oh, there's a cat.
Hello.
Something a lot cuter than you, Nico. She agrees. One of the things I found quite interesting when I was sort of reading the reviews, this was a first time watch for me because I obviously knew this came out, but I kind of had just, it was one of those movies that I just never got round to seeing last year, and
yeah,
I'm kind of glad I didn't, to be honest. Like, I was, and because people seem to be, for the most part, obviously there are those that don't, people seem to be, for the most part, really fucking high on this movie. And
yeah, because it's good.
I disagree. I was shocked at how bad I think this movie actually is. I do not
what makes you think this is worse?
Well,
let's do the simple comparison to start with.
What makes me think that this is worse than the Child's Play remake?
Yeah.
Well,
the Child's Play remake is fucking gosh.
Well, number one, one of the things was that everyone was saying this movie's so fresh. Like that was like the buzzword that kept coming up. This movie's really fresh. It's such a good like entry and original. And I was just like, this movie's a total fucking rip-off. Complete fucking rip-off. So immediately when I'm watching it, because obviously I knew the concept of this movie going into it, so I had a rough idea that we're probably going to get something that's relatively similar along the lines of the Child's Play remake. So I wasn't super shocked that it was going to be along those lines. But it's not even just like along those lines. It's the same fucking movie.
It's near enough the same. Like the only difference is the other one, it's a programmer got pissed off and he's fucking done that, right? So that's the main difference. It's some programmer going to take the safety protocols off. Which, as I said, made Child's Play shite because it wasn't the way Child's Play. I
I
preferred the
mean,
whole, it's a psychopath trapped in a body trying to escape.
Yes, we're very familiar with why you think Child's Play remake is shite.
So I'm just saying the differences, right? So
No, but like
I
realistically, right?
shite.
No, but what I'm saying is, like, realistically, the reasons why the doll has decided to become this murderous fucking being are really, in terms of the content of the movie, kind of irrelevant. When you're comparing the Child's
really.
No. When you're comparing the original Child's Play to the Child's Play remake, it's completely irrelevant. When you're comparing the Child's Play remake to M3gan, I think it's pretty irrelevant. Like,
Yeah, it's irrelevant on this. I'll agree with that. I totally agree with what you said there, but this is the thing. Because, like, I always said it's a good idea having a Ghost in a Shell type movie. Everyone is terrified of AI, the whole shebang, all of that stuff. The Child's Play stuff was never meant to be billed as that. They still build it like it was a killer trapped in a body. And then you went into the movie and they totally changed everything about it. That's what pissed me off about that. It was not as advertised.
So hold on a second. So what is your whole reason for this movie being good? Because this movie's got M3gan on the title and not Child's Play.
No, my reason is the Child's Play remake should have been so much better than original Child's Play because it had better folk in it. It had more money behind its budget.
Hold on a second. It had better. Like, I know we love Mark Hamill, but I'm not going to take that Brad Dourif slander.
Well, I would say out of the two of them, 100% Mark Hamill is high up in my opinion on that.
Well, I completely disagree.
And it failed epically short.
I completely disagree with that. For as much as I hold Mark Hamill in really high regard, Brad Dourif is superior for me.
Well, that's your opinion, but in mine it was such a big letdown because it had everything should have been better and it was worse.
I'm just gonna interject right there and say that I'm gonna promote the shit out of this episode about you being a Brad Dourif hater.
It's not. I never said I hate him.
Fucking Alex Vincent lover.
Well, here's the thing. So, that being said, that out the way. Compare this to the remake. The remake is. This feels better. This feels like the whole build up of the doll becoming psychotic is better than just I've flicked a couple of buttons.
But there is no fucking build up to this doll becoming psychotic. This doll is psychotic from the get-go.
Well, yeah, but it's not as much. Like, it slowly builds. Through the movie, I've watched this more than once now, and through the movie you see the slow build up and it's creepier.
I don't think there's anything remotely creepy about this movie, apart from how the doll looks. Like, I find everything about this movie and as it goes on so, like, I always feel a bit stupid saying, like, oh, I find it so implausible. But I just find it utterly ridiculous. Like, obviously, you know, what you're saying about, you know, AI and Ghost in a Shell sort of thing, that is all completely relevant to what sort of the advancements that are being made, right, in the world today. And AI has definitely taken, like, the sort of forefront of that over the course of the past sort of year or two. Like, AI has really sort of come into the public realm. So it's absolutely right, I think, that we sort of look at that in horror movies and use that as, you know, sort of AI gone wrong. But having said that, this is far from the first time that sort of subject has been broached. Even, you know, from well before the Child's Play. Let's just look at the whole fucking Terminator franchise, for an example.
Like, from the 70s right through. Yeah. They've always said machines will take over.
Yeah. So, there's that, and it's one of the things that really fucking bugs me about this movie is the fact that people do put that this movie's so fresh. There's absolutely not an original fucking thought in this entire movie. I think the tension they tried to build, I think they completely fail at that because it's so ridiculous. Like, they're trying to build tension, right? And then randomly, this fucking doll starts singing Titanium in the middle of the fucking movie, which just eliminates any fucking tension that it was even remotely trying to build, and that would be bad. That would be bad enough if that was the only time that this doll did something fucking ridiculous. The one scene where we do actually get to see a couple of fucking kills, the doll ruins any tension it builds with that stupid fucking dance that it does, that everyone fucking knows because it's been gifted the fucking shit out of. Like, it just, I know it's sort of now being claimed like it's trying to be funny. I think the comedy of this movie absolutely falls flat on its face. I think the comedy of this movie... I am not high on this movie, Nico.
I noticed. But here's the reverse of that, right? So the dance thing is sort of like trying to diffuse the situation and get closer to the victim. I liked that. I thought it was a nice, quirky thing. The thing is learning stuff off the internet, and it's got zero fucking protocols on that.
Yeah.
It's fucking learning whatever it fucking wants. And I love that as well, because you can tell this thing is a fucking psychopath. It knows that the parental guardian is absent, so it takes over that role straight away. It knows what it's doing through this whole fucking movie, and I love how it builds that and twists it and makes it like, here's mother type thing. It's creepy and tense, and I like
it. Right, okay. I agree with you in the fact that obviously...
And the titanium thing, by the way, that's from its exoskeleton, because it's mainly made of titanium, so it's taking the piss out of itself, which I quite liked as well.
That's a fucking stretch. Anyway,
not a stretch. They mention it like 3-4 times at the very start.
Yeah, who cares?
It's just not a stretch, though. That's where it comes from.
I know, but it's so ridiculous, though, right? It's so bonkers. Like, I remember I was sitting watching it last night, and that was the first time I watched it, because, like I say, I hadn't seen this before, and I actually remember because. And I just came home from work and I was halfway through watching it, and the look I think I had on my face, I was just like, this movie is fucking bonkers. Like, I actually couldn't believe what I was watching, and not in a good fucking way at all. I completely agree with the fact that obviously this thing has been created, it's got no protocols. That's obviously like a massive plot point to the movie, so that does explain some of the things that happen that we've just discussed. However, you're not fucking telling me that anyone who deems themselves to be remotely responsible, like Gemma does, because she cheat in this movie, because she claims to herself to be a very legitimate sort of toy manufacturer, toy creator, whatever else. She's not some sort of rogue, evil person, although we'll maybe get into the morality of her character in a little bit, because I don't actually think she is a very nice person.
No, she's not. She's pawning a fucking machine off so she doesn't need to take on the role of being a mother.
Yeah.
She's a cunt.
Yeah, but, she claims herself to be a legitimate sort of toy creator, right? For one of the biggest sort of toy companies in the world. You're not telling me that she's creating a full AI robot and not putting in one safety protocol and thinking that it's going to be okay.
Well, that's the thing. She's obviously just the tech one. She is just going full tech. That's all she's doing.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. You're not telling me that anyone who is involved in that industry would do something like that. Like, I just don't believe that that would happen. Like, that to me is just bonkers, and that is one of the really big issues that I have with this movie, because you're not telling, because she's not alone in creating it. Well, she kind of is, but there's a team of 3 of them. She's got her pals. You're not telling me any of the other 2 at any point weren't like, oh, maybe we should put a safety protocol in on this so the thing doesn't fucking murder everyone.
But that's the thing I know. Like, the other 2 are basically cosmetics on it. They're doing and making it move right, doing all that shit.
No, I get that, and
I get where you're coming from, I know, but I'm saying, if somebody's that single-minded and try to fucking cut corners, because that's the way they're explaining they putting the protocols in, she's trying to cut corners and get us up and running as quick as possible so that it's the next big thing, since their toys being ripped off.
Yeah.
Their Furby that they've made, because
it was just a fucking Furby, wasn't it?
It's a Furby with false teeth.
Yeah.
That's what that fucking Funko things are. I love the fact that they say their rival is Hasbro as well.
I know.
That made me laugh so much.
I did like that. Did you ever have a Furby?
No.
No, neither did I. Do you remember them being as fucking creepy as this fucking thing?
Well,
I don't remember them
not
being
really, no.
creepy.
No,
But
the
everything...
creepiest thing in it is Dog at the start. 100%.
You love the song at the start.
I love the hog. I love that. I had a friend, now they're dead. Fucking my dog died by my fucking pet. No fear, nay,
and for anyone who's not seen this movie, yes, the dog dies. Which again,
Which
just
one?
We'll get into that as well probably. I don't know, everything in this fucking movie, like the Furby things that they create, I can't even remember what they're called. They've got some bizarre name. It's like it's perpetual pets or something.
For perpetual friend or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Perpetual pet, something like that.
They're creepy as fuck. Megan herself is creepy as... Like, you're not telling me that any person looking at Megan, even no matter how impressed they are with how advanced she is looking at that fucking doll and being like, oh yeah, that's not fucking creepy as shit. Like, at least, like, listen, I know, obviously, the Child's Play remake Chucky looked fucking awful, right? And even I would agree that Chucky looked fucking awful, right? But at least, like, in
this doll looks better.
At least in the original... No! I think this doll's just as fucking creepy. It maybe looks better in terms of it looking more realistic, but I think that's it makes it just as fucking creepy. Like, at least in the original Child's Play, Chucky just looked like a fucking doll.
Yeah. But that's the thing with this one. It's meant to be fucking creepy.
But why would anyone buy that then for their fucking kids? Also, right, I really... Because at no point did they actually broach this. How much were they going to charge for a Megan doll? Because they must be talking like hundreds of thousands to create this thing.
I'm sure it says like $9,000 or something. For
no way could you buy this for $9,000.
I'll give you that one. I will give you that one.
This fucking thing. Oh, sorry, I thought you had a point.
Here's the thing, right? No, right. To be sidetracked with it, right? The build up to this, right, that I like the most is like the dog gets it, and the dog gets it because it's a cunt or a dog, right? Now,
go on about You know what's interesting about that? Because when dogs like act out in real life, they say, well, there's no bad dogs, it's bad owners, right? But the owner is like the owner of the dog actually, for me, is probably the only character I kinda like or sympathise for anyway in this whole fucking film. Like, Gemma's fucking horrifically rude to her. Like, see if it was a case like that scene where we get first introduced to the neighbour where she's like, keep your fucking dog off my lawn and, keep your fucking water off. Like, it's just like, why are you being so... And the neighbour's really apologetic about it as well. She's like, oh, I'm really sorry, like, blah, blah, blah. Like, she's being nice about it, and Gemma's just being a fucking dickhead to her.
Right, let's establish this. She should not be the one that's the guardian of that kid.
But can I just say, the kid's no much fucking better, by the way.
Like, the thing is, the kid's acting up because it doesn't have an actual parental guardian. It's got a fucking doll that's telling it to fucking
listen.
After its parents were died in a crash, she blames herself.
Listen,
the kid's fucked up in a heap.
I have more sympathy for the kid, right? I'm not gonna just be that fucking cold-hearted. I have more sympathy for the kid than I do for Gemma. But this kid's fucking... The way she full-on punches her in the face. Like, full on, like, at that point, I'm like, like, don't get me wrong, I have, neither of us have kids, right? But, that kid punched, like, I was like, oh, you little fucking shit. Like, honestly. But,
yeah, right, children dealing with grief go through a stage where they get violent. That is just automatic, right? The way they tackle that in this movie is pretty good and really well done, because if you nurse that instead of fucking try and help them through it, try and get them through it instead of try and build it up, that's what ends up fucking happening. They're fucking nature versus nurture,
No, listen, I totally get that, and that's probably one of the few fucking plot points of this movie that I actually am kind of on board with. I was more just saying, like, the fact that she fucking punched her in the face. You would be a little bit like, you're a fucking little shit, you know?
Aye.
But let's like, this is again another one of those movies, and we talk about it so much, and me and Boomer kind of talked about this a lot when we were talking about Don't Breathe, which I know obviously you maybe slightly disagree with, but like, we found like there was like, the problem we had with that movie was there was no one to really root for. Everyone in that movie was really kind of despicable for their own sort of reasons, even if some of them were doing it for kind of like just reasons in their own private life, and they had shitty stuff going on. And the problem I have with this movie is, again, there's just, everyone is so unlikable. Like, I don't know if they're trying to make Gemma remotely kind of sympathetic at any point in this movie, but it doesn't come across, because she's just kind of rude and nasty to everyone that she encounters. From, you know, she's really rude and nasty to the neighbor, she's really rude and nasty to the therapist, she's really rude and nasty to, like, the other parent at the school. Like, everyone she comes across, she just seems to have a fucking issue with, and
she's even a cunt to her boss.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like, and her boss is actually like, I know obviously is supposed to be this sort of, you know, shitty boss who doesn't really give a fuck and is really mean and nasty, but he's actually relatively reasonable in the beginning, because she shows him something and he gets fully behind her idea. Like, he's actually a relatively supportive boss, apart from the fact that he does a bit of shouting, which, you know, is never really a good thing as a boss. Like, he's not perfect boss. I've probably worked for worse people than him, though.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, so she's just really kind of horrible in every sense of the word. So you're not rooting for her, and ultimately she's our hero. She's our hero of the film.
Yeah.
And to me, right, because this is my problem as well, and I think I might be like, I understand this might be an area where I am kind of in the minority, because again, it's one of those things, if you don't have a likable hero, then you have to have a villain to root for. And I think a lot of people are rooting for Megan and kind of find Megan cool, but I don't. So therefore,
I kind of find Megan cool. I like it.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, I get that I'm maybe in the minority with this one, but that's where I sort of switch off for the movie, because I just think it's ridiculous. So
see, I like the doll. I like my favorite bit is, see that bit where they're like, oh, we're going to release the doll and we're going to hit, this is the folk that are backing us. And when the doll goes, oh, folk deal with death, right? As soon as it does that whole thing, it's just creepy enough to think, oh, they failed here. This is going to get fucked up. And then the doll turns it round and fucking, like, I really like that. I like I like the doll more than anybody else in this, because the kid's got too much grief and issues, and the doll's using that to its advantage. The fucking parent is nowhere to be seen. The parental guardian is just nothing. I like the fact that this doll is just purely psychotic, and it is the doll you root for in this movie.
Okay. I'll move on and maybe start talking about a couple of things that I do like about this film, because I'm not completely off board.
I just got attacked by a little bastard. I was petting her and she just wrapped herself around my hand and did that back paw thing. Fucking cunt.
Let's talk about a couple of things that I do kind of like about this movie, because I do like some of the messages that this movie tries to portray, because it does try to make some sort of social commentary about, you know, grief, you know, like we've discussed about, you know, sort of bringing up kids, about some of the moral decisions that parents have to make about bringing up kids, things like, you know, how much screen time do you give your kids? But it also makes a bit of a comment about the sort of consumer society that we live in today as well. So I do like some of these issues, because it brings up questions, right? You've asked some of the, like, how much screen time should children have growing up? Is there a right answer? Is there a wrong answer? In a forever sort of advancing world where all of us are spending more and more time on our screens, because for me, aside from really when I'm at work, the majority of the rest of my life is consuming some sort of media at some point, whether it's being on my computer, doing podcast work or whatever, and, you know, watching TV shows, on your phone, playing games. Like, that is what takes up the majority of people's sort of private lives. And for a lot of other people out there, they'll be doing that at work as well, on screens. I'm lucky, you know, we both are in jobs where we don't really spend a lot of time on screens at work, but So it does kind of raise that question because they actually specifically identify in the film how like they're like, oh, isn't it like half an hour of screen time or something? They say they should be giving KD. Is it actually said at any point, by the way, how old KD actually is?
It is, but I've forgotten.
Yeah. So I can't remember how old it is that they say she is, but half an hour doesn't seem like a lot of time.
It's when the shrink comes in and she says it there, and I can't remember. But
Yeah.
that's the thing, right? Nowadays, kids are doing their homework on the touchpads now.
Yeah.
If they don't have a touchpad, they can't do their classwork. That's fucking mental.
Yeah. So it's I really like what it says about that. There's also that scene, where she's like, when they first sort of get introduced again, and Katie wants to play with Gemma's collectibles,
Yeah.
and again, that sort of is maybe a comment on do not even us as like horror fans, because horror fans are obviously pretty big on collectibles and limited edition sort of prints and figures and stuff like that. But there's other sort of fandoms that gaming and I think so your sort of Comic-Con sort of style people and things like that who put a lot of time, money, effort, and sort of prestige into
Stop going in front of the screen.
things like collectibles. Do we maybe as a society place too much value on stuff like that?
See, I've got collectible stuff as well.
Yeah, so do I.
A toy's a toy. You know what I mean? It's meant to be played with. Whether you're a fucking adult or a kid. If you see a Optimus Prime robot standing on a statue that's like out of its packaging, it should be played with.
Yeah, I mean, and I think for me, in terms of things like the stuff I collect for like horror, I tend to stay away from figures and stuff like that because I not I think they're pointless and I think people should have them and enjoy them and whatever else. But for me, I get more things like posters and teas and stuff like that. That's more what I sort of collect. That's why I put sort of more value into anyway. So, anyways,
like the Star Wars Lego stuff, I've got shit like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you come round to my house, take it, put it off, put it back, just put it back where you fucking got it. I'm fine with that. If you fucking move it, I'll go tits.
I'm gonna just like move it an inch.
Fuck you.
I remember story time. Me and my mum used to go down to my auntie's house when I was little, and we would move her ornaments just so they were facing in because she was like really anal about like cleaning and stuff. So we would move her ornaments so that instead of like facing the right, it would face the left, and we would like play games about how long it would take for her to notice. And it never ever took her more than like an hour.
We had a mate that was a bit OCD, right? And everything in his room had to be right angles. So I remember this was back in the day when you go into your mates and like you'd have beers and be playing GoldenEye, 4 years in a little room playing it. You know what I mean? That type of scenario. So he'd go get beers and we'd move the beer mats so it's off angle. We'd fucking move the Xbox or the fucking PlayStation or whatever we weren't playing to a different point. We did heaps of shit like that. Like, in the same sort of thing, it would take him about 10, 15 minutes, and he would notice, he'd be like, somebody move that? No. No, I didn't know.
Just being generally cruel fucking bastards.
Evil. Like, the other thing was, he had these games in alphabetical order.
Oh, that's really mean. Even by your fucking standards, Nico, that's mean.
I would just take one and put it like third from the end, and you'd see him. He'd be like totally confused. He's like, "Did I put it back there?"
So you're just being a proper evil cunt.
Yes, pretty much. But you did the same with your aunt. Shut up.
We just moved a couple of ornaments around, changing that alphabetical thing. That's horrible. That's mean. That's too far, Nick.
It's not.
That's way too far.
It is not.
I think it is. I think the audience would agree with me.
No, not at all.
Anyways,
but back to the movie. This fucking doll is just so much better than Chucky.
I disagree. Your cat disagrees.
No, you don't, do you, Shira? No.
That's why she was attacking you. Because she disagrees so much.
She was attacking me because she's petting me like this. Look, she's doing the wrap round thing.
Mm-hmm. Because she disagrees. Anyway.
Not at Not at all.
I think as well, just to sort of go back on the point of there being so many like unlikable people in this world, in this movie, in this world. There's a lot of unlikable people in the world as well.
But it's the way the world's going. A
No,
lot
no, no.
more people are
I'm
being
not disagreeing.
selfish. And
However,
I think that's commentary on it as well, because a lot more people I've noticed the newer generations are getting more and more selfish. It's the me generation.
I would disagree with that in general. I think the rudest.
You're not in that generation. You're too fucking young.
I think
You're too fucking old. Sorry.
Thanks, Nico. I think, and I don't include you in this, even though you are a full decade older than me. I think there's no ruder, more sort of selfish, arrogant generation than the generations that came just before us. I think you'll find that the majority of the younger generation, whilst yes, a lot of them have sort of realised that they need to be looking out for themselves and taking care of themselves. I think they're a far more compassionate generation than any of the ones that have come before them.
No, I think they're basically trying to show they're more compassionate when they're actually not.
Okay.
Because I've seen the two-facedness with a lot of people pretend they give a fuck about rights with certain folk and don't give a fuck.
Don't get me
after.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it is a generalization for the entirety, because that's just a thing that doesn't exist. I think
Same, but
I think
majority-wise.
Okay. I disagree. I think the opposite in general. But anyways, my point was,
you work in the bar trade. How do you not notice the difference? Like, they're some of the rudest people I've ever seen the other side of the bar is this generation.
I don't know. I've worked with the older generation in the bar trade as well, and I've worked with the older generation not just in the bar trade, in sort of other settings as well, and they are usually the ones that give me the most problems. Yeah, I'm not saying that the younger generation don't give me problems and can't be rude and arrogant, but generally, things with them kind of get resolved by and large pretty sort of quickly and easily, whereas the sort of older generation tend to cause more issues. I think I've just turned off most of our sort of 50 plus listeners, but it's fine. I don't think we've got that many of them anyway. Anyways, my whole sort of point is, and I get your point that maybe you think that's the way the world is. The world is sort of a generally more unfriendly place. And I think that's probably more to do with the sort of polarization of things like politics and stuff like that just now, because the world is in such a polarizing place. Like
that's part of why folk are becoming more rude. It's us versus you mentality nowadays.
Yeah,
compared to we're all in this together.
I completely agree with that. I think that is very much a case of we are in a much more us versus you mentality, and that works to an extent, and then doesn't work beyond sort of, because it then becomes counterproductive, doesn't it? And I totally get that, and I get that that's maybe, but representing that in these movies for me becomes an issue, because then it becomes like a fact of you're watching movies with people you don't like.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's like everyone feels like now they've got to have a stance on something, and it's all right not to fucking have a stance on every single thing. It's all right not to know fucking everything. If you pretend you know something, you're a cunt.
I get that, but I do think there are issues out there that are so big that you can't be that. Like, there comes a point, there are some issues, yeah, like you say, if you're uneducated about it, or stuff you don't know about it, then yeah, it's probably wrong for you to form some sort of opinion about it until you know more information or facts. There are some issues out there that are just so big that it is irresponsible of people to not have a stance on it, though.
I agree with you, but most of the people that I'm talking about will pretend they've got a stance on it, pretend they know what they're talking about. As soon as you talk to them, they've got no fucking clue.
Yeah. Look at us getting into a proper discussion about social commentary and the state of the world.
I know.
Look at us actually doing some proper analysis. Fucking hell.
Hey.
Anyway,
back to the movie.
Yeah, so anyway, my point is, because I've been trying to make this point for ages, one of the biggest sort of examples of that in this movie, and just sort of how, again, the nature of sort of capitalism in this sort of consumerist society is the fact that they use that scene where Katie is like unloading about her parents' death, and they're using that as marketing material. Like,
yeah,
that's
fucking brutal.
That's really, I don't think, I can't maybe I'm being naive, but I don't think you would get away with that.
Well,
Really,
no,
would
you
you?
would, because they're basically pushing the doll as a support for fucking somebody that's lost somebody.
No, no,
That's what
no,
they're doing in that,
no, no, I
and
get.
it's so fucked up. But they would do that
Do
because
you
they're sick of
do you
bastards
think an ad?
nowadays.
No, no, no. Do you think an advert would come out like that today?
Oh yeah,
Because
because then they would say it was ironic and they meant to do it that way. That's how they get round being a dickhead in most adverts and stuff nowadays.
just this.
Oh, we're doing it ironically. No, you're doing it to be a cunt.
Anyways, yeah. Okay. We haven't really. I mean, we've obviously kind of went a bit in depth there about sort of the wider messages and some of the aspects of this movie in terms of the characterizations and shit. But there's a couple other bits and pieces that we should cover as well. Obviously, we've got our kills from this movie. Are there any of those that sort of particularly stand out for you?
Yeah, the kid that hurt her,
Getting his
pushing the
ear ripped
conker in her
off.
hand. Yeah, like when he gets his ear ripped off and when he's a dick with a doll and everything, it is just like, yeah, you you can tell he's got to get, and you can tell he's got to get quite gruesome, and it's actually less of a gruesome death than I thought it would be when that happened.
It's interesting you say that because this is obviously a PG-13 movie in the end. They do have an unrated version, which I think they released earlier this year on streaming services. I've not checked out the unrated version yet. I think they originally intended this to not be a PG-13 movie, but I think after they'd sort of created it, they realised it was pretty close to like the sort of cut off, if you were, for creating a PG-13 movie, so they decided to just go with it to try, I think, and get the movie out to a wider audience. I think that's to the movie's detriment. I think this movie could have done, and I think I would have possibly taken it a lot more seriously as well, had it been that bit more brutal. Because, you've obviously got that scene where she rips the kid's ear off, which in itself is a relatively brutal thing. The concept of a couple of the deaths are brutal because she kills the neighbor with a fucking power washer. So that's a relatively sort of brutal death. But I think I would have liked to have seen some of that.
Like, you don't see the dog die.
No.
But I was expecting to, if that makes sense. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. There's just...
I thought they would have done something with it.
But this is what I'm saying. Again, it's one of the things about this movie. It just never feels like it's sort of going as far as it should. It always feels like it's kind of holding itself back. And that's an issue for me.
But perfect example is the bit where she tears the ear off of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's abusing the doll. He's already fucking hurt the E that she's linked it. See this thing about pairing to somebody as well? I really like that idea as well. Because could you imagine how fucked up you could make it? They could have made it a lot worse with her being a little cunt, if you know what I mean. If she'd been a little bastard, it could have been even better movie.
I know. She could have tried to sing some fucking Freddie Mercury.
I know. She could have wanted to break free.
But, Don, they're going to do it in the sequel, aren't they?
It would be funny as fuck if they did that. But, it's the way the doll moves that is creepy. And we've talked about that before. I'm guessing they've got a dancer playing the doll because that's normally what they do nowadays.
It's just the kid who plays the doll, or at least she doesn't voice the doll, is an actress called Amy Donald. I don't think she's any sort of professional dancer. She did get a bit of training for this movie, but she performs all the stunts. The kid performs all the stunts. She did receive some movement coaching, and when she was...
It's it's unnatural, which makes it better.
No, it's probably one of the creepiest things about it. However, it's weird because, I can see why people think it's a creepy thing. But for me, it kind of took me out. A couple of the moments really took me out the movie with it. Like, that moment where she starts sort of running on all fours. Like, I just baffled. Like, why?
Well, because technically, if it was a robot, because it's pistons, it would work better.
No, but like, it looks ridiculous, like utterly ridiculous.
Well, it would move faster if it was real.
And then the scene, obviously, where she does the dance, and obviously she's moving in like a really creepy way. But she's fucking dancing, and it's like the fourth time in the film that she's sung or danced or done something fucking ridiculous, and you're just like, what the fuck is going on?
Same bit, right? Here's the thing. I can't believe I'm saying this, but like we were at work, and one of the guys is like, "Oh, have you seen Megan yet?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's pretty good." And he's like, "Do you not notice what the doll looks like?" And I'm like, "What?" And he goes, "Do you remember that Greta fucking sex doll that was going about fucking everyone
Oh.
saying stupid shit?" And I'm not joking. He brought up a picture, and it looked like that. So, so they made an inside joke with that. I'm guessing because there's no way they did that by accident.
I hope it was just an accident. I hope it was just an accident.
Because if that's an inside joke with that, I think that's even funnier.
Obviously, we just kind of mentioned it there as well. There is a sequel to this movie coming. Megan 2.0, as it's called, slated for a 2025 release. All of the original cast is returned for this. I'm ignoring what you're saying. We've got both Alison Williams and Violet McGraw, who obviously plays Gemma and Katie, are both back in the new movie. We've got the same actress back playing Megan, the same voice actress, so be interesting to see what they do with that. I have little to no interest in seeing a sequel to this film.
I'll definitely go see it.
I don't really see the need for there to be a sequel to this movie.
The way it ended, yeah, you can see that it could have just stopped there, but I'm glad there's a sequel coming.
Why?
I liked it. I thought it was creepy. I enjoyed this movie.
I think
this is one of the movies I watched when I was on holiday.
I just don't think there's a single moment in this movie that's even remotely creepy. And I know the movie's
everything to do with the doll.
I know
everything to do with the doll is creepy. There's not one thing the doll does that isn't creepy.
But it's okay, yeah, you're kind of right, but it's
I am right.
No,
it is.
but it's not.
Horrible.
Yeah, it's creepy, but it's not creepy. Like I don't understand how to say it. I'm so disattached, but from the creepiness in the movie, by everything else that's going on, by my hatred for the majority of the characters, by the absolute failed attempts at I can't find it creepy because I'm just not interested.
See, I get it. You need a character to root for, and you're not rooting for Megan. Whilst I'm the opposite. I'm not. I do need a character sometimes. I am rooting for Megan.
I don't even necessarily. Like, I know it's a big point. Like, it always helps, doesn't it, to have a character to root for? It does always help.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't even be so fussed about not having a character to root for if there was a more like just cool shit happening on screen. Like, you have to have something. You can't have a PG-13 movie that isn't funny, because I don't think the majority of the humour in this for me just doesn't land. The stuff they try to do with the quirkiness, with the songs and the dancing, for me falls flat on its fucking face. You don't have anyone to root for. I don't think the villain looks particularly cool. The idea of the movie is a complete fucking rip-off. Like, there's nothing really for me to sort of get attached to in this movie, and that's my biggest issue with it.
Yeah, but I think it's a very good social commentary on the way the world is going.
It's the only positive I have about this movie. Is it? Yeah, okay, it's got some good social commentary.
And the way the doll acts and everything, I do genuinely find all that shit creepy. And I was rooting for the doll, so I'm total opposite for you.
This could be interesting come score time.
See the bit where the doll actually goes full on Ghost in the Shell, I'm killing fucking every fucker. I love that bit.
Okay.
Like, it's one of those moments where you want to see this fucker go off the leash. You want to see it go mental. And I think that actually could have went even better. I think she should have murdered Abdi in that building. I think she should have just went fucking tits.
But she didn't, did she?
I know.
It's just another example of the movie being like holding itself back. I
still liked it.
But no, but like again, it's another example of the movie not going as far as it should. So in actual fact, you've just highlighted yet another negative aspect about this movie. Well done, Nico. You're coming round.
But no, I liked it. I liked the fact it went off the chain a bit, and I want to see it go off the chain even more.
But
now
this,
that I know there's a sequel.
but this is the thing, right? Because this is the thing that confuses. Like, you obviously are saying that, right? I don't think this movie went off the chain in the fucking slightest. Not even remotely off the chain. This movie is so fucking
Like,
on the chain. It's so fucking predictable that it's boring.
right, so you go on about the neighbour's death, for example. You brought that up. So the first thing she does is pin the fucker down with a nail gun. I love that. I'm
We
like,
have seen
to
that
do it
though.
that
So we
way,
have seen that happen
I
so often. And
I
like
know.
that's not.
But normally when they do that, that's when they get up close and personal with a knife and stab the fucker. This fucker doesn't do that. This fucker goes over, gets the power washer, pins it to her face, and blasts the fucking shit out of her.
You know what?
That's an even more painful way of going.
You know what? Right. And we'll go. I'm going to take it back again to the Child's Play connection, because this is one of the reasons why Child's Play is a far better movie than this as well. Because the kills are no, come on. You've literally got a kill in Child's Play where he breaks the boy's fucking legs and then decapitates him with a fucking lawnmower, and they spend half the movie trying to get rid of his severed fucking head. He kills one of the most likable characters on screen, which is the fucking police officer's mother. Like, it's just so much cooler. Like, I just don't understand how anyone can look at what's going on in this film.
I saw that and fucking saw that coming a mile away. You're saying you saw it coming a mile away in this. You saw it coming a mile away in that.
You saw the deaths, but you didn't see, like, the level of those deaths. This is so... it's boring. It's boring.
But as you said, this is a PG-13. They've taken that away from it.
Exactly.
They've
taken it away from it, and without it...
I would like to see
but you're saying
fucking fully R-rated version instead.
But we've not got a fully R-rated version. They haven't made a fully... They've made an unrated version, which is obviously more gruesome. But you're saying, oh, they've taken that away. Exactly. They've taken away the good aspect from the thing they've ripped off. They've actually hollowed out the thing they've ripped off, which is ironic, since the kind of topic of the movie it is, and made it worse.
See, no, I prefer this, because there's actually better shit, and it's not a
There's no better shit. How is there better shit? The shit is not better.
The doll is 100% creepier. Like, I cannot emphasize that enough, right? You're getting on.
So that's so okay. So hold on. So your whole reasoning for why this movie is better is just the doll looks a bit better. Like, don't get me wrong, the way the doll looks in Child's Play is horrendous.
That's not my only reason, but that is the main reason, right? That is not my only reason. That is my main reason, because plain and simple, Child's Play was a fucking crock of shit. On paper, it should have been so much better than the original, and it was a crock of fucking. Like, genuinely, it was a dumpster fire. And you're thinking to yourself, why the fuck did they do that to such a good franchise? And I know they couldn't do it because of all the fucking shit that was linked to it, but they shouldn't have fucking bothered if they couldn't have fucking made a decent movie out of it, because it was epically good, the original. Epically good.
So
all
these
they
people,
were doing
so these
was
people
in on a name.
So these people, so you're saying they shouldn't even fucking have tried it, right? If they can't make a good version of the movie. So these people decided to make an even more watered down version of the movie, obviously slap a different name on it, and then do it.
No, you're talking about an R-rated movie, which was a piece of fucking shit rip-off of something that was cautioned and...
No, right, I'm not, hold on, no, stop. I'm not having you criticize, I can't have you criticizing that movie for being a rip-off when we're talking about this movie ripping off the rip-off.
What I'm saying is, that movie changed every fundamental aspect of Child's Play because they couldn't get the rights to it.
They
bought a name and cashed in on it.
But this is not what I'm talking about. But this is not what that's not the point we're making. I don't care.
Let me finish. I'm saying one argument for that, right? Now, the reverse of this is not technically a rip-off of Child's Play, which you keep saying. This is technically a rip-off of Pinocchio, if you really want to go that far back. This has got all that.
So it's ripping off multiple different properties then. That makes it good.
That Child's Play was a rip-off as well. That's what I'm trying to say to you. You can't see this. That Child's Play was a rip-off, a Ghost in the Shell aspect, an AI fucking... version.
But this is the point, right? This is the point, right? Obviously, we're making the comparisons to the Child's Play remake, right? And the comparisons, even you will agree, they're there, right? There's massive
comparisons. Your comparison.
Hold on.
The biggest thing with you.
Let me finish my point.
This is not off the chain.
Right? Let me finish. No, because you can't. The fact that it's a Child's Play the fact it is the original remake is a remake of Child's Play, right? The Child's Play name in this context is what we're talking about, because we said that at the beginning. That is irrelevant. It's irrelevant how shit you think the Child's Play remake is compared to the original. None of that actually matters when we're talking about this movie. What I'm just talking about is, no matter what you think about Child's Play, whether you think it's good or shit, this movie, M3gan, is a completely ripped off, watered down, shitter version of that movie. It doesn't matter how good you think
But
Child's Play is.
It's not, though.
But
it's not a rip off of that. It's not. It's a rip. This is right.
But you're justifying. But you're justifying this movie being.
That is a guy flicking 3 buttons saying "safety off," fucking do this, fucking do that.
Right. Exactly. No, but exactly. That makes more sense.
Is the development of AI in our. This is a development of AI in our social circumstances where it's actually coming through in its way to push buttons of folks' fears of AI. There's none of that in the other one.
No,
Child's Play doesn't have that. We'll switch off.
But what happens in Child's Play is makes the storyline much more sense. It's a disgruntled employee who then goes on and does that. In this one, you've just got 3 fucking idiots, and not one of them decided, oh, we'll put in some sort of safety protocol. They're fucking fools. Like, it just is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And you can't justify this movie being better because it didn't rip off Child's Play. It actually ripped off fucking another property. That doesn't make it better.
But this is not an original idea, because plain and simple, it's something that's been around since fucking God knows for how long, since back in the day when folk thought machines would take over the world. That's all this is.
I just say,
all Child's Play was.
This is probably.
This is not ripping off Child's Play. That's what I'm trying to say.
This is probably the biggest movie row we've had since we covered Child's Play.
I know.
I think at this point, and the worst part, I just don't think we're ever going to agree on doll movies anymore. We both like the original Child's Play. like another thing I liked about this, right? I don't think I can.
The advertising in it, right? The advertising it, right? So they get a fucking model dressed up like the doll, and it's just creepy as fuck as well, because she even dunks her head like that as the fucking thing happened, and you're like, why'd they put that in there? It's just weird, but creepy.
Right. Okay, I think
there's heaps of different creepy bits.
I think we need to start kind of wrapping up this area of the discussion. I've got just one more point that I would like to make, and then I'll let you come in with any other points. One of the things that really disappointed me about this movie, right? Because, we haven't discussed that enough. One of the things that really sort of upset me about this movie is finding out, like, the people involved. And it's, obviously it's directed by Gerard Johnson, who hasn't got, like, a massive name in horror fandom, but he has directed one of my sort of favourite kind of underrated horror comedies out there in Housebound. Which came out in 2014. If anyone's not checked out Housebound, go check it out. It's a New Zealand horror comedy. It's really fucking funny. So he directed that. The cast in this movie, we've got Alison Williams, who is, done other horror stuff before. She's done Get Out and The Perfection. We've got Violet McGraw, who was in Doctor Sleep. So we've got people who, are known to the horror community. And then you've got the fact that this movie was written by James fucking Wan.
Yeah.
Or at least partially written by James fucking Wan, who is one of the most successful horror directors and producers out there. And it kind of tracks for him a little bit, but because aside from a couple of his movies, I find a lot of James Wan stuff to be really formulaic and kind of predictable. But to me, this movie is just like that times 10. And it really disappoints me to find out that all these people are involved in making this movie, and this is what they've made. Like, that's just, like, again, personal differences aside about how we feel this movie, I feel like, given the people who were involved in this should have been so much better than it was.
See, I like this movie. I think they've done it very well. I think, basically, I'll agree with you, they shouldn't have made it a PG-13, right? They should have just let it off the chain, but because they've done that, it's watered down. I love the characters in it, and I can't wait for the sequel. It's the only way I put it.
Okay.
I like hating them. I want to see them die. This is the thing that you're not realizing. It's not like I want to see them survive. I want to see them get killed.
No, I know, I do realise that. I totally understand wanting to see characters die, right? Because there's tons
Yeah.
of, like, loads and loads of horror movies out there that we're all, like, really happy to see certain characters die. You just can't have your entire cast be like that. And again, that's also fine if we have a cool original villain, which we don't have.
Well, I think it's a very creepy doll, and it's
It's a
better
very
than
creepy doll, but you can't.
90% of the other doll ones.
Well, anything
How,
else,
how,
Nico? Is there anything else about this movie before we move on that you would like to discuss?
not at all. I'm just happy it exists.
You're just happy. Good. I'm happy it exists too.
I knew we'd end up barking at each other over this.
Oh,
That's
that's
what
it.
I picked.
I didn't quite think it would go this bad though. Listen,
I did.
I went into this movie. I really, really wanted to fucking like this movie. It's not like I went into this movie thinking it was all these things that I've said. I really wanted to like this movie, and I'd heard really good things about it. Maybe that's what it was that spoiled it for me. I'd heard really good things about it, and maybe my expectations were too high.
Maybe, but
But
I saw this and I'm like, it's taken away all the stuff he loved about Child's Play, and I love that.
oh, so what you're actually saying is you just love this movie out of spite.
Not at all. I genuinely did enjoy it.
Uh-huh.
I really did enjoy it.
Okay. Okay, shall we move on then? Please let us fucking move on.
Should we move on? Should we move on? Okay, we'll move on.
Let's move on and talk about some trivia. Not actually a huge amount of interesting trivia about this movie, so it should be a relatively short segment. We'll start off as we normally do with the finances. According to IMDb, this movie had a budget of $12 million. This is why the sequel's being made, because it's grossed worldwide $179.8 million. It was a massive financial success, which is really surprising. Not because of whether you think the movie's good or not. It's really surprising just because of when this movie came out. It's a first week in January release when this movie came out, and traditionally movies that come out in the first week of January either get critically panned or a massive financial flop. So for this movie to go on and do that it does make it an outlier in those terms.
Yeah.
So I totally see why the studios have greenlit a budget, even if I don't want to see one.
I do.
I know.
And we'll review that one too.
I think I might have kicked you off the show by that point. So obviously, as we kind of alluded to in the main portion there of the show, they originally intended to make this movie be a higher rating than a PG-13 rating. That wasn't their intention, to make this a PG-13 movie when it first came out. I think what happened was they put out a whole load of trailers for this movie on things like TikTok, and they kind of went viral amongst the teenage audience, and so that's when they sort of decided to retool and cut bits of the movie to be PG-13 so it would appeal to a younger audience. And one of the things I would say about this movie, the marketing campaign for this movie was pretty fucking good. Like you say, they got actors to dress up as Megan. There was actually they got a bunch of actors to dress up, and they showed up during a NFL game. I think it was the Rams versus the Chargers or something like that. And they performed a dance routine during halftime. So I like the marketing around this movie. I think that's a positive I can glean from this movie. So I'll give it that.
Yeah.
Finally, because like I said, there really isn't a huge amount of trivia about this. Lydia, the therapist, she was originally going to be killed by Megan during the rampage at the toy factory. So again, it's that sort of what you were talking about. You felt like that it kind of went off the chain, and she should have probably killed a lot more people at the factory. That was the plan, to at least probably do a bit more of that. The whole reasoning behind it was that Megan was going to be upset because Lydia made Katie cry, so she decided to kill her. But again, that's something that got cut when they were cutting this down to PG-13. See, this is again, this is what I'm saying. This is why they've clearly made this horror movie, and it just seems to me like they've cut out what could potentially be some of the best bits of this movie. I genuinely feel like if I potentially went and watched the unrated version, I would possibly feel a lot better about this movie.
Yeah. See, I
Because
didn't know that existed, and I'm going to look it up now.
I genuinely think that this movie would be much better with that. Because again, even taking into account how I feel about the characters, how I feel about the villain, if you add in that brutality factor, I do think it will at least put it up somewhat. I still don't think I'm going to love this movie. I don't think I'm ever going to love this movie. But I think I might feel a lot more positive about it if I check out the unrated version. So there's that. Is there anything you want to, any bits of trivia that you know about this film, or shall we move on? Hello, Nico, have you died? I think we've lost Nico. Okay, so we'll try and get him back in just a second, but... Oh, there he is.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there.
You've returned. Any other bits of trivia, Nico?
Not that I know of, but it's getting a sequel, so I'm happy.
I know you're happy. Right, let's move on to our final segment, which is the ratings and the reviews. As always, we'll start off with the critics' scores. IMDb scored this movie a 6.4 out of 10. Metacritic score has a 7.2. Nico, what do you think the Rotten Tomatoes critics and audience scored this?
I reckon audience will be high, so I reckon that's like a 7.5-ish. So, well, 75, sorry. And then I reckon critics, not so much. I reckon that's like a 40 odd.
This was mind-blowing to me when I looked this up. So the Rotten Tomatoes critics, right, have scored this movie 93%.
Nice.
There's no way, even as someone who likes this movie, that you think this movie is a 93%er. Surely fucking not.
I don't, but I genuinely thought the critics would hate it. I thought they would be like you, just thinking it was a rip-off.
The critics have lost their tiny fucking minds over this movie. Like, I
agree with the critics for a change,
and I'm
so scared.
Astonished that this movie got so high. The Rotten Tomatoes audience, you're pretty much spot on, scored it at 78%, so you're pretty spot on with that.
Cool.
The critics' consensus, right? Unapologetically silly and all the more entertaining for it, M3gan is the rare horror comedy that delivers chuckles as effortlessly as chills. I could not disagree with that more, but here ho. It's actually quite funny because then there's the audience consensus, right? As long as you aren't looking for... sorry, I'll start that again. As long as you aren't looking for something truly scary or even surprising, M3gan is often a lot of fun. So the critics are sitting there being going like, this movie's scary and funny, and the audience is literally there saying like, this isn't scary or funny. So...
See, I did find some bits funny, and I did find definitely dull chili.
I think we'll get into listener opinions in just a moment, because that maybe will demonstrate a little bit of what I'm about to say. Because I think one thing is this movie is kind of wildly polarizing.
Yeah.
Well, actually, no,
like
I say that,
but like the world nowadays.
You know, I say that the critic scores and all that are pretty high for it. I think we'll do some of the listener reviews. Our friends over at the House That Screams podcast, so Candy and others, have given it a generous 2 out of 10. Gore would have helped, but this was a major yawn and cringy fest, so I couldn't agree with that more. Movies for Days, on the other hand, our friend Jeff Newman over at Movies for Days, 9 out of 10. Sharp satirical writing that keeps focus on relationship and never takes itself too seriously. Wicked kills that are cruel and creative. Excellent performances. Great puppet effects. Teamwork. Not a Chucky knockoff. Wrong. This is doing its own...
Totally agree.
And this is doing its own thing and is a funny / killer midnight movie. Listen, Jeff, I know we're friends, but... Woof.
Totally agree.
Final Girl Boss on Twitter gives it a 3 out of 10.
I salute you, sir.
It's alright, Nico. I don't want to finish this episode. Final Girl Boss gives this a 3. This movie was a good idea executed poorly, and that includes the marketing. So much marketing for so little story or character development. It's kind of what I think for a lot of people, Nico, they kind of have that sort of Blair Witch feeling that you have. Like, they really loved the marketing
Yeah,
campaign, but didn't actually think there was any sort of real content in there.
yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know,
I
can you
kind
maybe
of.
see where people are sort of coming from that aspect?
Oh, it was over marketed to fuck. It was overhyped. I know that,
Yeah.
but
Okay.
I liked it,
Okay.
and I do agree it was overhyped, but I did like it.
Our friend Wren, previous guest host, said it wasn't good or bad. I think Megan, the character, has some generally creepy moments, but overall it was never scary and very predictable. Felt neutered in both the PG and the unrated cuts. However, it would be a good entry into the intro to horror for a younger crowd. 5 out of 10. That's interesting because Wren's someone whose opinions we both kind of generally respect when it comes to horror movies.
Yeah,
Obviously, neither of us have seen the unrated cut yet, so the fact that he's saying that it feels neutered even in the unrated cut, is a little bit concerning for me. I do kind of get where he's coming from as well with the whole intro to horror. I think this possibly would be a relatively suitable sort of intro to horror movie for a younger crowd,
yeah.
where you could maybe show them it, but I don't think this is the kind of horror movie because we've all, again, it's one of those things, isn't it? Like, we've all got like those stories of us watching horror movies that we really shouldn't have been watching when we were way too fucking young,
Yeah.
and that's what sort of sparked all of us having this uh passion and love for horror that we now do. So I'm not sure that this movie, even if you like this movie, I know you like this movie, Nico, right? I'm
Yeah.
not sure that even if I did like this movie, I would feel that this movie is good enough to be like an intro to horror. Like, I don't see this movie really sort of sparking anyone being like, oh yes, like I need to go and check out so much more horror now that I've seen Megan.
I think fucking it's quite a good one. I think younger crowds would love this.
No, I'm not saying that they wouldn't like it. I just don't think, I'm just not certain that people would then, off the back of this, develop this love for horror. I don't think it's good enough in that way. I think it possibly
See, I think it is.
okay. Okay.
I genuinely do though. I
Okay.
think it is because well, it's not too gruesome for fucking younger ones. It's like that one you could go to your grand's house and watch. You know, where they wouldn't notice it's
No.
something you shouldn't be
I'm not
watching.
disagreeing with those facts. I'm not disagreeing that it would be a more suitable movie for a younger audience, given that it's PG-13 and there's not a lot of gore and swearing and bad shit happening. There's no tits and ass on screen. It's all that sort of stuff. Like, yeah, I completely agree. It is more suitable for an intro to horror. I'm basing this off the pure quality of the movie. I don't think the scares are enough in this movie for people to genuinely feel like they can go on and check out a fucking Scream or a Nightmare on Elm Street or a Friday the 13th or whatever.
But that's the thing. It's that the total opposite. I think it's just good enough. I think it's got a
No,
decent
but
character that they
yeah,
can
but
get
this is what
behind. It's creepy.
but this is what I'm saying. All of our sort of love for horror was developed by watching horror movies that we were far too young to watch, things that were way too
Yeah.
scary for us. Not Megan.
Well,
So if I'd watched
like
Megan when
mine was like Poltergeist and stuff like that. Yeah.
mine's was Scream and Halloween.
Yeah, and Nightmare on Elm Street as well. Yeah.
And I was 6. I was 6 years old when I watched Scream. I was fucking terrified. I don't
Uh,
think I'd be terrified watching Megan as a 6-year-old. Not in the same way,
see,
anyway.
I think I would have because that fucking genuinely, I find the doll the thing that's the draw in this because the doll is just fucking creepy.
Wait, you think the doll's creepy? We haven't discussed.
I know. I keep saying it, but it is the best thing about it.
Plot twist, listeners. Nico thinks the doll is creepy.
But yeah, I think that is the thing that could give children nightmares.
Okay.
And
And
let's be honest, it's the nightmares that made us watch horror when we're older. Because when we were younger and we got nightmares that engraved it in our beds and in our fucking skulls.
okay.
And this could definitely give you nightmares.
Oh,
Like, do you think a 6-year-old could sit through this and not get nightmares watching it?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't think this is anywhere near on the levels of other, like, We've said what we've said. I don't think I've not really got much arguing left in me for this. I've still not
let's
finished.
get to the voting
Anyway,
bit.
I haven't. I've got other opinions. I've still got other opinions to read. I haven't even gone through all of them yet. Anyways, our good friend and multiple times as a guest host, Boomer, gives it. I fucking hate you, Boomer. Boomer says it's an 8 for me, and I don't care. I had a blast. My theatre experience is great with everyone interacting and laughing along. And when that beat kicks in, it gets me hyped every time.
Oh, Boomer, I couldn't disagree with you more, obviously.
Funny. And finally, I'm just gonna carry on. I'm not even gonna acknowledge that. Boomer, if you're listening, I'm not even gonna acknowledge it anymore. Or finally,
Boomer, I love you.
George Valentine on Twitter says 7.5 out of 10. It was pretty fun. I had a blast at the cinema watching it. Maybe it's something that I would have preferred a cinema experience for, but I think I'd have been pretty pissed off that I'd paid money to see this, so don't know. Anyways, overall, our listeners...
I'm not gonna lie, after watching it on holiday and watching it at cinema, I will openly admit it was better in the cinema.
Okay. Maybe I would have had more fun with it as a theatre experience. I don't know. Overall, anyway, our listeners and followers gives it a 6.3 out of 10, which is interesting because genuinely our listeners tend to be the most generous scorers. What I find interesting is that's lower than all of those critic scores that I just read out. So okay. I just find that generally quite interesting. That therefore just leaves me and you, Nico. Something tells me we're not going to be close on this one. On a scale of 0 to 10, what would you score M3gan?
Well, you're going to give it probably about a 2 or a 3. And I'm giving it an 8.5.
8.5.
8.5.
Wow. Fucking wow.
Am I wrong about the 2 or the 3 though?
No, I'm giving it a 3 out of 10.
I told you. Easy peasy.
Fucking 8.5. This does make it. So, given all of our scores combined with the critics and the follower scores, gives M3gan an average score of a 6.9 out of 10. It puts it in 39th place of the now 78 movies that we've covered on the show. So a lot higher than the 60th that you predicted it would come. It's one place above... It's one place...
I thought critics would have hated it.
To be honest with you, I thought the critics was going to hate it as well. I thought the critic score was going to be much lower than a 93. I agree with you there. It's one place below Krampus and one place above Event Horizon. Don't you fucking dare turn around to me and say you'd rather watch this than Event Horizon, because you'd just be fucking You'd just be fucking lying.
I'm not going to lie. I'd say, but yeah, I'd watch both for similar. I'd put it on par with them too. I normally say I'd rather watch it more.
I can't believe I can't believe you're saying this is on a par with Event Horizon.
I'd say both of those. I'd say it fits. I'd say it's the third one out of those 3 movies. Just
it's not on a par then, is it?
Yeah. No, but I mean just like it's only because I've watched it recently. You know what I mean? If it was put this way, if it's Christmas time, I'd watch Krampus more, and if it's the middle of summer, I'd probably watch this more.
Okay. It's worth pointing out that this is the highest rated movie that I've given such a low score to. Nothing else that I've given a 3 or lower is even sort of remotely close to this movie. The closest movie is actually Rubber in 62nd place, which I gave a 2 out of 10. Everything else between that.
See, and that I thought it would be around about there, but I'm surprised.
That's where it belongs.
Nah, it doesn't.
I think that's where it belongs, but anyway.
I think it's in good company for it is.
Nope. Anyways, I think Nico, I think I've just about had enough. That's going to do it for this week's show. I'm not even sure I'm going to fucking thank you for coming on, to be honest.
Boomer, I love you.
For those who would like to support us across our social media platforms, you can do so on Twitter at Damn Podcast. We're on Facebook and Instagram at Pod of the Damned. You can email us at podofthedamned@gmail.com, and you can subscribe to us on Patreon, patreon.com/Pod of the Damned. Not only, aside from the main show, we have a lot of other bonus side content coming out over the course of the next few months. We've got our new Bucket List Horror series that will be coming out at the end of this week on the main podcasting platform, but we have other side series as well that will be exclusive to our Patreon and YouTube channels, so do stay tuned to all of that. We have tons and tons of content coming out over the course of the next few months. Up next on the podcast, Nico, we are talking about, it's your choice of movie. This was your choice of movie, because obviously you were off for a couple of weeks, so we did a couple of my choice movies while you were off. So this was your first one. Next week we're talking all about Becky.
Yep.
We just decided to pick all the girls named movies? Megan and Becky.
No, it's because the new one's coming out, and I actually saw that recently.
The new one's out, right?
Is it out?
I think
it might actually be out.
I think it's already out. I can't remember what it's called, but
Wrath of Becky.
Is it Wrath of Becky? I think it's already out. So yeah, we're going to talk about Becky again. A movie that I kind of glossed over. I've not seen Becky before. I've obviously heard all about it, but I've not actually checked it out, so it'll be a first-time watch for me. And if this is anything to go by, first-time watches for me that you've chosen are not going down well at the minute.
I saw it a couple of months ago when it went on Netflix, because Becky just came on Netflix.
Bearing in mind how I felt about it, do you think I'm going to like it?
What, Becky?
Yeah.
Depends. Do you like who's in it?
As in Kevin James?
Yeah.
It depends.
Do you like Kevin James comedy?
Not really.
Do you hate his comedy? Be honest.
I don't hate it. I'm not a big fan of it. There's a couple of these movies that I'm kind of okay with. It's not the first Kevin James movie that we've talked about either, because he was obviously in Hubie Halloween. Wasn't a fan of that.
Then you're gonna love this, I think.
Because he's totally different in it, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like, if folk that watch his comedy hate him in this. Like, good, absolutely hate him in it.
That's one of the things that I was kind of looking forward to seeing about this movie. And I remember that being kind of being pretty widely talked about when the movie came out, was, you know, how different he was in this movie to what everyone was used to. So
try not seeing any attractions for it and you're gonna love it.
Okay. That's fine. So yeah, that's what's coming up next week. As I said, join us. You'll have a bonus episode coming out at the end of this week where Nico Nice of the House That Screams podcast finally comes on the show to talk about his very first bucket list horror movie. He decided to pick An American Werewolf in London as his first bucket list horror movie, so that will be the first one that's going to get discussed briefly. So do let us know what you think about that as well. But thank you once again, Nico, for joining me. Welcome back. I hate you.
Are you sure?
Nope. No, thank you so much for joining me once again.
I think we've got to just remind everyone we are actually friends.
Do we have to put that disclaimer out yet again? I think people maybe are getting a bit fed up of it. I think the more and more that we say it, I think people are believing us less and less.
Yeah.
And I think this was by far the biggest disagreement. We've disagreed on a lot of movies, and we've had heated debates about a lot of movies. We've not had a heated debate like that since Child's Play.
fucking knew it would happen.
Child's Play was what, like the fifth, episode 5 or something? That was way fucking back. Right at the start. I'm actually going to look it up. I actually need to know now how far back that was, because that was way back, really in the early days. Yeah, it was episode 5. So it's taken 77 episodes for us to get as heated as we did in that episode, because if I remember correctly, that was definitely the episode that would have solidified for people that we might not be friends.
Yeah. That and Doctor Sleep.
So I think, which was episode 1. We decided to start out hot. I think I might have a few different promo clips for this one, just of us fucking going at it.
Folk are
Anyways,
gonna be like, when's the chainsaws coming out?
I know. Anyways, yes. Thank you, Nico, for joining me. I have a feeling that we might be slightly more civilized next week. But
This was a pleasure
yes, for you.
for me. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I'll get you back. I'll get you back. I'm away to change up all my choices.
Oh, I
I
guarantee you will.
Anyways, thank you to all of our listeners, people who have been checking us out live. Thank you so much. Don't forget, if you would like to join us live, if you're listening to this on the podcast, we are twitch.tv/pod of the damned. So check us out there. Give us a follow. If you've been listening to this on the podcast, the download, or watching us on the YouTube or the Patreon, thank you so much for that as well. But until next week on the Pod of the Damned, just remember, you're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't.